Hi there everybody, it's UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator Helzie here from SlimmandStylish.stampinup.net. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Today I'm playing with the Whimsical Trees Cling Stamp set. Absolutely love this one, and I am doing some watercolouring with it. Now just before I went to go and actually film this, I made a boo-boo and dropped it in some ink. So if I just put my thumb over there, this is what the card should look like. It's a slimline card, really fun, and I love doing watercolouring effects like this. So I'm going to show you how to make it. And I'm going to keep my thumb here whenever I show you this card because I was really angry at myself for dropping it in the ink. I'll have to put a bow there or something to cover it up going forward. I haven't cut anything yet. I'm going to show you how I make my slimline cards. So my slimline cards, so that you can see in the UK and in the US, are 21 centimeters, which is 8 1/4 inches wide. They are 7.4 centimeters wide, which is 2 7/8 of an inch. Okay. So what I do is I get my normal card base. Okay, so over in the UK, this is our normal A5. So it's when you've got a piece of A4 and you've cut it in half and you get your A5 piece of cardstock. Okay, and all I'm going to do, normally I would fold it that way to make my card. I'm just going to fold it that way. So I'm going to score it at 7.4 centimeters. Really easy, my slimline cards, because I don't have to change any of the bases. It's still the same size base, just scored in the opposite direction. Okay. And there is my base of my slimline card. Okay. I'm also going to be using the shimmery white cardstock, which is beautiful. Hopefully you'll be able to see it in the light, but it has got a real glitz and shimmer on it. And this is, other than our watercolour cardstock, this is the best colour cardstock to use for your watercolours. So I'm going to cut this down. This here is 7.4, so I'm going to cut it at 6.9 so that it's 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 of an inch less, so that when it sits on the card, it will sit with a gap like that on it. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut 1/2 centimetre off the end, because this is the same length. You can see it's the exact same length as the cardstock, because obviously we're in the UK. So I'm just going to cut 1/2 centimetre off the end, which would make it 20.5 centimetres. Because our normal cardstock is 21 centimeters. And that's how I make both the base and the mat for my cards. Okay. So for this card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this really cute Christmas tree here. Now, I did look at using this one, but I just liked the size and the style of this one just here. Sorry everybody, doorbell went. I'm back. So for this card, I'm going to use my Stamparatus. I found this the easiest way to put the card together. So let me show you how I did this. And I got them then all the same height. So you want to load your strip that you've cut into your Stamparatus. To me, it's just a bit easier if you put it in the middle. Okay, and if you put it so that it's on one of these grid marks, you're going to know exactly where you are. All right, you then want to take the stamp and line it roughly where you think you want it, and you'll see I'm leaving about 1 centimetre or so at the end of the card. Pick it up, but before you ink it, just move this up using the hinge technique, and you want to move it all the way to the end and drop it down, and just make sure it's dropping in with still 1 centimetre from the end here. Okay, and it's where you want it. It is, but sometimes it's a lot easier just to check that before you go. rather than get to the end and realise it's not in the place you want it. There is also a trick with this just because of the size of the stamp. So I'm just going to do this sideways so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm using Stays On ink. Stays On is the best ink for watercolouring. It does take a bit of time to dry and it does make your stamp a bit messy, but that's why we do have a Stays On cleaner. Okay, when you use Stays On, pop it onto your stamp and just give it a little twist. Okay. Ink up, stamp down. If it doesn't stamp right, because you're using your Stamparatus, you can always re-ink it and re-stamp it again, but I'm quite happy with that. Okay. I'm next going to do the end one. This is because if you notice, if you move it across one, it actually is almost touching. I don't want that for this card. I want a gap. If you wanted to have a load of trees touching, that would be brilliant. But you notice I have used a gap and I have only got 5 trees rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which I would have had. So I'm just going to go to the end and you'll see why as we go along. And I'm going to ink that up again and drop it down. Be careful when it's on the end because it doesn't have as much stability, so it wobbles a bit. So you have to just use your hands on the hinge to keep it straight. Okay. So you've used the hinge at the end and the hinge at the top. So to get the one in the middle, it would be this one. 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is the next one to use to get it in the middle. Hopefully I'm explaining this easy-ish, hopefully. Okay, and then stamp that down. That gives you your 3, all the same height, all the same distance apart. Now you want to go half in the middle to get your next tree. You'll notice that's a bit hard to get because we don't have hinges there. So instead, what you want to do is you want to move your cardstock along. So I'm going to move my cardstock still on the same height and I'm just going to move it to there. So it's just past the numbers. Put my magnets back in, line up my stamp, and as you can see, it now falls in the middle of both of these two. So I can just straighten that up. There we go. Straight now, yeah. I'm trying to check on the line. Ink it up and drop it down. Okay, move this over, move that over. Go over to here. Pop it in and you're going again. Ink it up, drop it in. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees. Dead simple. Just take that out. Okay. So there is your finished 5 trees. Okay. So what we're going to do now is a bit of watercolouring. I love watercolouring, but what you're going to need is you're going to want some tissues, your aqua marker. This is the one I'm using, so it's like the medium brush. You're going to need your chamois, which is just off to the side of my table. You're going to need the inks that you're using. So I have used Polish Pink, Blushing Bride, Mint Macaron, Mossy Meadow and Evening Evergreen. So you're going to need all 5 of those. And you're also going to need the teeny tiny Stampin' blocks, or you can have the re-inkers. It's really up to you which way you want to play this. So I'm just going to pop the lids off these. If you've got the re-inkers, you can pop a dop of each ink into the tray. Like I said, I don't have the re-inkers to all of them, so I'm actually going to do it this way. If you've got the old Stampin' Up ink cases, you don't need the blocks. I'll show you why. Oh, just shove my finger in that. Much better than the card like I did on my other one. It's a good job my my chamois close by so I can just wipe that off. So the old cases were a bit more flexible. So if you have an old case like I have them with my cherry cobbler, you can always push in the middle and then you will get ink come onto the tray here. The new cases don't work like that, so you need these blocks. Okay, so let me show you on the first one what we're going to do, and I'm going to start off this end and work my way across because I'm right-handed and it makes more sense to me. So you want to grab one of your blocks, take it to the ink pad and smush it in. Okay, so you get a block full of the colour. Then take your watercolour marker and you'll see that one part says push. Push on it, which will release some water onto the block, which you can then mix up and use it as your paint palette. Start off at the top, drag the colour over your tree. Now, if you've popped your pen in the really watery bit like I did, you're going to get a watery colour like this. If you go around the outside where there was less water but more ink, you're going to get a slightly darker colour. So you can build this up how you want it. You can also do it as a gradient, so it starts off light and goes to dark, or it's dark in the middle, lighter at the edges. You know, you can do this however you want, and you can go over as many times as you like. If you're on our normal cardstock, you can't go over as many times as you like because it warps with the water. So this is why you ideally need the shimmery cardstock or our watercolour cardstock. So now I've got it dark in the middle, I'm just going to go over the whole thing, going out a little bit wider, and it's just going to give me some flicks on the outside. You see, it's gone a bit wider, but it's just doing a lighter colour around the top. Okay, so now I'm going to pop my watercolour marker onto my chamois, and I'm just going to wipe it out. I'm also then going to pop this on the side because I'm very messy and that will end up on me. So now my next colour is Blushing Bride. I'm going to do exactly the same. Put some ink on it. So here's put some water on it. Pick that up and drag it over my tree. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm just going to pop that again back on my chamois, wipe my nib of my pen out, and into the mint macaron I go now. I'm just going to push on this a few times because when I did this earlier, I noticed my mint macaron pad is getting quite low on ink. So there we go. There is enough on there to go with it, but I do need to order a re-inker for this. Okay, run that over. I just want to keep going. I chose these colours because they were fun. They were also very similar to the colours that's with the paper for this section. And if you haven't seen the paper for this section, oh, go and have a look. It's gorgeous. Sorry, sweet, not section. I know what I mean. It's really nice. And so I took inspiration from the papers and used the colours that were very similar to it. The only difference is it should have been Misty Moonlight on the end rather than Evening Evergreen, but I actually didn't quite like it with the blue. I did try it and it just was a bit dark and it just looked a bit random. So I just switched it and went to Evening Evergreen. There we go. Just want a bit more water on there so I can get a bit of a looser spread on the ink. There we are. What I like about watercolouring is you don't have to be in the lines, you don't have to be precise about it, you can be as messy as you like. Okay. the final tree. I mean, even in evergreen does have a touch of blue in it, you know, it's not just a green colour, it has got sort of that twilighty blue in it, so it's not a million miles away from the Misty Moonlight, but it just doesn't look as dark as the Misty Moonlight did. So I'm just going to wipe my pen out again, because if you do leave it on there, it will start to stain, so wipe it out straight away. And then what I'm going to do is just pop this off to the side for it to dry. Pop my lids on all my stamp set, so inks, because I do have a very nasty habit of dropping things in them, as you know from the card, from my thumb, you know. I do this sort of thing regular, so it's much easier for me to remember to put the lids back on them. Oh, and this one's a tough one. I forgot that was a tough one. I haven't used it very much since I had it, so it's a bit of a tough one. Right. You want some Versamark now, because we're going to do some heat embossing, and you're going to want some scrap black. So I'm going to do the sentiment that's here. Sorry, cover it with my thumb. I'm going to use the Joy, which is from the stamp set, which is this one just here. So heat embossing, right. You want to use your embossing buddy on here, just to get rid of any static. I've got a piece of cardstock here to collect the powder when it goes on. I'm just going to ink that Joy, and I'm going to leave enough space for it to be punched out. And then my white stamp embossing powder. Oh, I'm putting the lid on before I've put the powder back in. There we go. Powder back into there. And then I'm just going to grab my heat tool and heat set that. Okay. You can, while your heat tool's out, also heat this card just to make sure that all of the watercolour is dry, but I can see that it's drying right in front of me, so by the time I come to put it together it'll be fine. I'm just going to punch this out. Grab my sentiment, grab my card base, and I'm going to be using my Tombow for this to put the card together. The reason we use Tombow is you notice that some of the card has warped just a little bit from the watercolour painting. I find Tombow will stick it better, because I'm going to put it all around the middle as well. And it will just make sure that none of the card will lift away from my base. If you ever get a splodge, just use the other end of your Tombow just to flatten them out like that. Dead simple. Okay, and now I can just adhere that onto my card base. Okay, finishing up, I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals onto the back there. 1, 2. And pop that onto the card. Now you can put some rhinestones on this if you want to. We could use some of our normal basic rhinestones. Just trying to look for my piercing tool. I've got it somewhere, I've used it today. There we go. So you could just pop a couple onto the base of the card or onto the sentiment like that. So I've just put them there like that, and I hadn't put them on my original, so I'm going to put that on too. Everything I've used today is available from my store, slimandstylish.stampinup.net. Go over and have a look. But if it does look like you're going to be adding £75 or more into your basket, please do check my joining offer, because you can join my team anytime up until the 30th of November. You can spend £75 and you get £130 worth of product for that. So it's pretty much a buy one, get one free. Ish, almost. Anyway, have a look at it. See if that's of interest to you. But anything you like, you can get from my store, and you can join from there as well. Thanks everybody, it was lovely to see you. Let's just cover the corner of that card up, shall we? See you all again soon. Bye. I hope you've enjoyed today's project. All items that I have used on this video are available to purchase from my store, www.slimandstylish.stampinup.net. Alternatively, if you would like a copy of our catalogues, please send me an email to slimandstylish@live.co.uk or leave me a comment below and I'll get in touch with you. I upload regular content to this channel, so if you do enjoy watching my tutorials, please make sure that you have subscribed and rang the bell to get notifications when new videos go live. Thank you for joining me and have a lovely day.